Hey, good morning. It is Sunday, and we are talking about stuff that we're calling rants. And this time, it could be, who knows. I'm always super late to the game because I don't want to play the game. But there's interesting thoughts that come up when a game is played, when a drama hits. It was the Fender drama, which is still a drama, and that's going on, and we're staying on it. And then comes the Daddario drama. I'm not going to discuss whether that's Daddario or Daddario, whatever it is. I kind of missed it. And because, I was busy actually doing reviews, which come out during the week. I don't do weekly drama, I do Sunday drama. By the way, we're in the big studio today because I was too lazy to set up lights and cameras somewhere else, so I just went to the studio and, just turned things on. And since Leslie is out with the dogs, I'm switching myself today. But it's a talkie video. One camera is enough. That's cool. I got full control. Wait, why is this? I'm pushing 2, but it should be, 2 is 3, and then 3 is 4, and then 4 is 2. Well, that's not gonna make it easier. Oh, that brings me, to today's sponsor, which is Daddario. Today's video is sponsored by Daddario, the Something Max Studio Max 2 headphones. And they wrote to me, I was like, really? Why do I need to talk about DJ headphones? And yes, these are DJ headphones in the sense of that you can angle these away somehow. And I don't even know how to do this because, I'm not a DJ. So these are about $200, which isn't cheap for headphones, but they feel very nice. You know what, let's take them out of the box and see what's inside. So I gotta say, quality-wise, these feel like, my Austrian audios, which are a bit more. Are they quality-wise, sound-wise like that? I will find out. But the big thing is, these offer, Bluetooth. You can use them for your Bluetooth headphones. And again, if you're a DJ, you do whatever you do, that thing. I'm not a DJ. But it's nicely padded here. Feel good. But the big thing is, you can use them with Bluetooth and very easily, which is important, also wired with a nice tetherable squinky-linky cable. And this lock, which is nice, plug that in and it locks. And then how do I unplug it? Now it's locked forever. They, of course, have plus-minus controls and some functions. There's also an app, which I looked at. There has a transparency mode, a couple of things. I don't think that's the big thing. The big thing is that they have a low latency mode, which is not the Bluetooth mode, and it connects to the little doohickey, which of course they have a cable for, and then this is battery powered and the doohickey is battery powered, and we'll find out what the latency is. So I will play a bit and I'll show you how I have this connected. I have a headrush on the table and I just plugged this into the headphone out on the headrush. There's of course also a biggie connector for it. Now we'll try this with Cubase in a bit. So for mixing or something, this could be cool. And then it connects to this super light thing, which is battery powered. And you can also connect it to USB with your computer, so you could actually run this digital if you wanted to. The big question is now, what is the latency? Can you actually play guitar with wireless headphones, which you usually can't? this usually doesn't work because you feel it. Anything over 11 milliseconds is extremely noticeable and will hinder your playing, right? So obviously you can't hear the head rush. I mean, you could if I turned it on over here. So here's the thing. For mixing, not an issue at all. For DJ stuff, where I think the stuff you do is not under 9 milliseconds, likely totally fine. For guitar, yes. For funk and extremely precise metal, I think it could work. It's borderline, but I think it could work. What you always have to consider is latency stacking. Just a word that I made up, which means I'm playing into the head rush, which is a digital device and has to convert my guitar into digital, then process it, and then back to analog, and then it goes into the Daddario Studio Max 2, where it again gets converted into digital and beamed over here. So the 9 milliseconds isn't what I'm now feeling. I'm feeling the latency of the head rush, which has to have a latency, and then the latency of the device. Let's say you're playing through your computer. You're playing into an audio interface, which has, let's say, 6 milliseconds latency. But then you're playing through in software, which again has latency. And then it comes out of your computer with an output latency. And then it goes into this thing, which adds 9 milliseconds. So realistically, you're probably looking at 20 milliseconds. So when you're looking at the viability of something like this in terms of latency, don't look at the 9 milliseconds and say, oh, that's fine, 9 milliseconds, I don't notice. It's more like it adds up. If, of course, you're monitoring an analog source, you're playing into something analog, and then it's absolutely 9 milliseconds because the analog will have no latency or light speed latency. So in this case, with the head rush, so we have a modeler, there is latency present already into the Daddario. It works. Would I play super precise metal? I don't know. I mean, I would have to track with it and see how precise it is. But for most cases, fine. For playing keyboards, I'm thinking probably fine. For doing DJ work, absolutely fine, because you're not millisecond precise, right? You're beat precise, which isn't really milliseconds. Impressive. For guitar, they sound fine. They have a little bit of a different top end than my speakers, so I'll play around with them a little bit. But honestly, $200 for decent headphones that come in a nice case with a good set of cables, nice padding here, nice padding there. As I said, quality-wise, maybe where the Austrian Audios are, that also can operate as Bluetooth for your normal TV or music listening pleasure, as well as a high latency mode with the transmitter box to do mixing or guitar playing wirelessly. I hate acting in the studio here and having to have a cable, which then again is getting entangled everywhere, especially with acoustic guitars, super annoying, back and forth, and the cable and the mic. Eliminating that one cable really changes your workflow. I made this way too long of an ad, but it's also a little review, which I think is important. I do think this is a decent product. So I put the links below. This was sponsored by them. I didn't say this because it was. I said it because I just tested and I like. So do with it as you please. Thank you, Daddario, for sponsoring this. And now back to me talking about totally other shit. Now Alexa, stop! What the crap? Where was I? Daddario. I kind of missed it. But I watched some videos from good people. So, if you want to know what it's about, because I'm not going to play you things in this video. I just won't. Not because I can't. I could edit all that stuff in there. I could make this a good video. But I'm a lazy fuck when it comes to Sundays. When it's the other days, go all out. Sundays, lazy fuck. So, please watch Red Shawl, KDH, or Danny Sapko. I watched their videos, good reporting, I would say fair and balanced. Well, Danny and Red are very anti-Suno, and I asked Red if he wants to have a discussion about that. But I want to steer this conversation somewhere else. So let's quickly talk about what happened. String demo for super low downtuned strings appeared, on the Daddario Instagram and YouTube channels. And anyone that has listened to AI music, I've listened to it a lot. I've made it a lot. I've generated a lot. I've produced a lot. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I produce the songs. I don't leave the AI. But I know the sounds. And that's clearly something that comes out of Suno. I was unsure. After their explanation, they got me a little bit, but then I was like, no. And then a couple days later, everyone said, that's AI, how could you? You're a string company. Fully correct. That's absolute bullshit, right? If I do something for Daddario and I want to show strings in a track, which makes very little sense because in a track you cannot tell the quality of the string in any way, especially when it's highly produced, and that's the point of the video. If you do that, yeah, have an AI song created, that's fine, to get inspiration. But then you produce it and you record everything with actual musicians and instruments. It's what I do, and I can live with it. I wouldn't have faulted them for doing that. But then they got a lot of backlash. That's AI, how could you? And mistake number one, they censored those comments and erased them. Well, that's clearly bullshit. They claimed they did that to protect the artist, who apparently got threats, including death threats, on private messages. Who the fuck are you people to have such a big stake in a string company Instagram demo to find the artist and threaten them because I used AI? I use AI. Come at me. Come on, beat me up. What? Are you fucking insane? What's wrong on the internet? We need a fucking internet license where it's your name and everything you say can be fucking tracked to you. I'm sick and fucking tired of it that people can say whatever the fuck they want under pseudonyms on the internet. Everything I say, you see my face. Everything I write, it says Henning Pauli next to it. Because I interact with people on the internet just like I would in real life. If I have an issue with someone and I would tell them I don't like what you did, I would also tell them in real life. Fucking cowards. That's what you are. Not you. The other yous. You know what I mean. Not you. You guys are great. Actually, sorry about this. We have two sponsors today. One was Daddario, of course. That was a paid for sponsorship, and I'm happy because I got the headphones as well. But the other one is these guys. That is unpaid. What I got is soap, because I contacted these guys and said, I want to promote you. Because I saw their stuff on Facebook, and it's some of the funniest advertising you've seen. It's some of the most ballsy advertising you've seen. It is hilarious. It is going against all the shit that's going wrong right now politically, and they're not afraid to say it. And I said, I want to be part of what you do in the smallest way possible. They're called My Cluck Hut. And it's a cock. I mean, who doesn't like a good cock? And God, does their cock smell good. MyCluckHut.com. They sell soap. Artisan, handmade soap. It's not really the point of what they sell. They're just freaking cool people with the best social media you've seen. So they actually sent me a letter with some, thank you for the support. Enjoy your goodies. Thank you, Henning. That's nice. And, ooh, lip love. I'm going to open this. Ooh, So why am I pushing soap on you? I'm not. I'm pushing these people on you. Good people are good people, and you should buy from good people. So if you're in Europe, the shipping is a little bit steep. But if you want to support good people, fuck it, pay the shipping. Lip stuff. Shave bar. It smells good, but the mic clucking soap. And this is, what is that? Cedar orange? Oh my God, it smells good. And it's got a cock on it. Who doesn't like to have a nice cock on everything? Cluck, yeah. They're fucking funny. Please, check out My Cluck Hut on Facebook, on Instagram. Like, subscribe, buy some fucking soap from these people. I even got a little soapy standy thing. Is that how it works? No, you put it down or something. I don't know how soap works. Honestly, you're gonna laugh your ass off. Smart, unapologetic, and daring. We need more of this. Now back to the Daddario drama. And you know what? I will never censor any comments if they go way below the belt, you know, calling me a Nazi or sexual stuff against women in my videos or whatever. Yeah, I'll censor that. But how about that? You can call me anything you want. I won't touch the comment if you write your actual name in it. I got sidetracked. It's like Trump, just like somewhere else for half an hour. Coming back to Daddario. Different camera. Hello. Oh, that's not what I wanted. How did I get there? This is a good video. 4. There we go. Why is it? So, Daddario censored. Okay, 3 days later, they released a Logic session that is supposed to be that track. And it sounds pretty awful. I mean, yeah, it's a phone recording, but boy, does it sound awful. And I can already see a lot of things in there where I go like, what the crap did that producer do? And it deviated from the thing that they actually uploaded. So therefore, people were like, is that actually the thing? And then people analyzed it. Danny Sapko analyzed it. And there were analyses online. People also ran the original through an AI detection algorithm, which KDH said they're not that accurate. Came out 94% as Suno, which I will believe at this stage. Daddario made a further mistake after censoring the comments of then issuing a big statement saying, oh, what you detected as AI is actually super compression. The drums were quadruple compressed and everything was at 127, which that's a mistake already. For that music, maybe, but ew. Suck the dynamics out of things. Why do you do that? And then, you know, highly processed guitars. As you can clearly see, if you've watched Red Charles' video, for example, in the Logic session, I have one little clip here, like ridiculous amounts of processing, even on the guitars. So you're trying to show off strings, okay? And on the guitars, you've got compression, auto-tune, which can be necessary for really low stuff when it actually doesn't hit the pitch correctly. I have done that when there's a woo, too much of that. But if it does that, well, and that's the strings' fault, and we're trying to push strings, right? And then there's Logic pedal board, Logic amp. There isn't anything else. You're using the built-in stuff. And then another EQ that's ridiculously shaped and another compressor. I mean, whoever did that tried to polish a turd with 8 plugins per track, having 10 guitar tracks layered on top of each other. It's being lost in production and completely losing the focus of what's supposed to happen and what's supposed to be shown. Is that a noob mistake in production? No, I don't think it's a noob. It's the guy's cool guitar player, but doesn't necessarily know how to record. But they're saying this is all production, and then the AI that was used was actually the mastering plugin, Lander, and Lander obviously vehemently refuted that, which is true. They said that mastering, which isn't AI, it's machine learning. It's the same thing that Isotope's doing, which I use all the time. It's just a good mastering plugin, right? That moved the timing around, it doesn't. And that moved the notes around and made new lines and new licks, which is why the original performance and the Logic performance is different. That is obviously clearly bullshit. Absolutely utter bullshit. So Red Shell finds that there's actually a stem-separated drum track, which served as the guide to the programmed drums. I do that all the time. My stem-separated drum track comes from a Suno track. I stem-separate everything, and then I produce everything. I replace all these Suno tracks, except the vocals, with my own performances. And change quite a lot. I produce an artist, and the artist in this case is the AI. Art is a big word there. But they didn't do that here. So apparently, what happened is, what could have happened, who knows what actually happened. But the most likely scenario is, they go to an artist and say, oh, do something for these super low strings. Here's a 9 string. Because we want to show how cool super low they are. It's likely an artist that doesn't have the most experience with that type of music and instrument. So they pick a song that they did in 2020, according to Red Shell, that was done on a 6 string. Now he's trying to modify that for heavy, djenty stuff. And it's clearly, that's also the biggest issue here, I think, artistically. It's a very happy K-pop kind of a feel. Just heavy. Why the fuck would you do that to get to an audience of low-tuned death grind core people? That's what they would have needed. 2 guitars, 1 left, 1 right. Brutal. Showing off what the strings can do, how snappy they are, how clearly they are on pitch. They needed autotune. So this guy is using something he wrote 2020 for 6 string, trying to adapt it for 9 string, and probably is out of his depth. Showing you, because there's about 6 to 8 tracks of low rhythm guitar. Completely insane. Also tracked as DI way too hot, based on what I could see. Because when you do a DI signal, they're not very hot. They're only hot and compressed when you track actual recorded amps. The DI signals were super hot and super compressed already. So a bit weird. He then sent that through 8 further plugins, which just gobbled the shit out of it. Also, when you layer 8 guitars, he was trying to get the fat, djenty, low, brutal sound, but couldn't. That is the right guitar with the right sound before the DAW, with the right part arranged correctly, played correctly. That's how you get a brutal, djenty thing. And what you need for that is 2 fucking tracks, not 8 layered with loads of plugins. So the final mix might not have been this massively compressed, modern, stuttery. I mean, it was ridiculously stuttery. I mean, it's unplayable. That is completely unplayable. It was absolutely edited and produced to shit. Fine. It's a stylistic choice. But he wasn't, chances are he wasn't happy with that. And what then might have happened is Danny and Red both tried it. He fed the mix into Suno and said, give me a version of this. Just make it sound better and fatter and more low end. Well, the problem is Suno doesn't do mastering. Suno doesn't take your audio and runs it. And he might have absolutely mistaken that. He might have thought that's what Suno does. This is upsetting. He might have thought that, I'm not blaming the guy. Might have thought Suno can just make my audio better. And fed it into Suno and said, improve the mix of this. Make it fatter and more djenty and low end. Because I don't have enough kick drum, I don't have enough low guitar. Okay, but what Suno does is it takes your song as the inspiration and completely artificially generates new audio. It doesn't polish your audio, it generates completely new audio based on all of its experiences trained on loads of music. So That's likely what happened. Meaning, was generative AI, if that is what happened, was generative AI used? Yep. But was a song generated in Suno and somebody had no artistic input? No, that's also not what happened. It's just merely a very close, it's pretty damn close, Suno cover version of what he actually did. Because when I watched the video, I was like, why the fuck are people saying that this is AI? Because the guy plays the parts. Even though it's a video performance and it's not 100% exact, why would you bother to learn all the parts, which if you know all the parts, you can record the parts. If you can record the parts, you don't need fucking Suno. So what's the point? Why would this be AI if you see someone playing it? When you see my videos, you see me playing everything because I played everything. So why would I do something on Suno, learn all the parts, and then just mime to it? That's clearly asinine and dumb, because at that point, it's a matter of a few hours to actually play the damn thing. At least it would be for me. If I know how to play it, then that's the biggest part of the whole session. Recording and mixing it, that's a piece of cake, and that's exactly why we're here. That's what we're talking about. Sorry it takes so long, because that's a Sunday video. It's, I'm not prepared. Unprofessional, lazy fuck. Where was I? I think the mistake here was, if this is what happened, it's an old song. He took fader, which are also used for stem separation. Suno stem separation is better. So it actually shows you that the guy who did it is not very familiar with Suno. Or actually, he might not have been able to stem separate his own song if it's something that Suno was trained on illegally or whatever. Because if you drag any song into Suno that already exists to do stem separation, which it is extremely good at, it's going to tell you can't do it because that's copyright protected. Funny, huh? That Suno is, doing that. So he might not have been able to use Suno for stem separation. So he might have used fader for stem separation. Because in Red Charles' video, we see that it's the fader drum separation thing. So he separated the drums from his original performance, but stem separated drums don't sound good. He then used those to listen to what he did back then, redid it in Easy Drummer, and produced the track. Layering way too many guitars, putting a shit ton of plugins on them, trying to make them sound better. But when you have 10 guitar tracks, each with 2 compressors on it, and Logic amps and Logic pedal boards and enhancers and stereo wideners and auto tunes, what you're getting is pretty crap. Also, some of the melodies you could clearly see in Red's session were not guitar melodies. They were synthesizers. There were actual synth melodies stacked in thirds or something like this. I saw that below. So I don't know why we're switching cameras, but it's fun. We have them, so why not? Just hope I'm not showing anything that I'm not supposed to show that's, still not released. If that's all that happened, and then he wasn't happy with it, and he loaded it into Suno, and it's like, oh, that sounds better. First of all, what's wrong with your fucking ears? And then mimed to that performance, but of course didn't mime it exactly, because why learn the Suno performance if he already knows his performance? Then that's a very unfortunate chain of events. Then that shows poor judgment. It shows poor knowledge of some of the tools, like what Suno actually does. It would have been at this point, and this is where we get to what Red alluded to at the end of his video, we need rules, we need regulations, we need transparency. At this point, it would have been prudent to tell the people at Daddario, who are marketing nerds, sales guys, they're not professional musicians. Some of them might be, but not the people in marketing that were behind this. They don't know what tools were used, and maybe they don't have the ears, which they fucking should as professional musicians working at Daddario. But okay, maybe they don't have the ears to say, oh, this, dude, that's AI. Why are you giving us AI? That's not why we hired you. Should have come clean saying, look, I tried. It's not what I want. I ran into Suno, and the Suno version of my song I like better. Transparency. At this point, they would have had, if transparency was required by law, to label the song as AI. Even me, when I replace everything, and it's all human, right? It's all this guy doing it, except for the vocals, which I run through some other software to actually generate different vocals. So nothing from Suno is actually left, most of the time. When you ask me, I say, I didn't write the song. You know why? Because I fucking didn't. When you ask me, yeah, it's AI. When people write, who's a singer? I'm like, it's AI. What did you do? It's an AI song that I produced. Transparency. Could Daddario have released this and wrote partially AI generated? Oh, it would have just been a super, super bad look. Would have made sense. And also, I'm going to argue, did they hear the original song, the 6-string song? Did the guy pitch to them, oh, by the way, this is what I want to use, I'll just make it heavier and lower? At that point, why didn't someone at Daddario say, wait a second, it's a little bit heavy. We're trying to get to the, full body tattoo guys that go, you know, 8 and 9-string stuff. Not K-pop 8-string players, brutal 8-string players. That's our target audience. So let's do something for them. Meaning, let's do 2 guitar tracks, maybe 4, and show off that with very simple production techniques, you can get a massively good sound. And then actually in the video, I would have showed parts of the waveforms and the tracks and shown not a lot going on here. It's all the string doing the heavy lifting. That would have been a message. Okay, I filled you in on what I think might have happened. Why are my pants wet? What the? Wait, 2 was 4. Yep. I filled you in on what I think happened. Daddario did the whole, it was all to 127, Lander, blah, 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 sorry. At that point, they didn't apologize for the social media thing, which I think is worse than using AI and trying to hide it. Suppression, free speech, of course, threatening the artist. Bullshit, don't fucking do this, you assholes. Not Daddario, you assholes who did that. But they issued a statement. I commented under that statement on Facebook and said, look, I work with you guys. I don't care, whatever, but the whole silencing comments is just not okay. And that's what you would have to apologize for. And then they actually answered me and said, yeah, you're right. We didn't apologize for that, but we should because, big lesson learned. And a big lesson was learned at Daddario, who said, of course, we will, whether it's AI or not, they didn't admit that. By now, it's pretty clear. They said we will definitely be an AI-free company. And because, they're selling strings to actual musicians. They can't sell strings to AI. Why would you alienate your target audience? A computer doesn't need strings. Musicians do. So of course, when you're pushing strings, you need to actually have someone on a guitar. Now, if I did something for Daddario and I used an AI track, you would still see me playing an actual guitar. You would see a real human being play an actual guitar, which he actually played and recorded. Is that a small distinction? I think it is. Again, AI is content, not art. Big, big thing. But the production. We're now at a point where thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, and many people on YouTube are discussing back and forth, is this AI or not? Which means now if you have a really good song that sounds maybe a little bit a certain way, we can't even as musicians tell anymore if it's AI. I was pretty sure it was, but I don't know. And I'm really deep into this shit. I have Suno open every day. What's the lesson here? The guy tried to produce this super produced, ultra compressed, ultra modern 10 guitar layer stack of guitars. Maybe using too many tools and not knowing exactly how to get that sound. But Could the lesson be, fucking don't do that? Could the lesson be, we need to move to simpler production, which, by the way, Suno can also do, but you can tell on the compression on Suno sometimes, and you can definitely tell that guitar sounds sometimes, rhythm guitars sound fantastic, couldn't tell. Acoustic guitars, sometimes, I can't tell. Sometimes it's very obvious, especially on electric guitars where they're clean or distorted when it's single note lines, you can tell. The average listener cannot tell. I can, and maybe you can. But the fact that we couldn't tell means, shouldn't we just not chase this ultra mega produced craziness? I have a lot of discussions with people about tone, whether it was with Guillaume from Two Notes lately, or Glenn Fricker when he's talking about EQ in front of your amp and behind in the effects loop of your amp, and then post. So you can put an EQ before your amp, you can put an EQ in the effects loop of your amp to shape between the preamp and the power amp. You can put an EQ in post to shape the guitars. And I get a weird feeling in my stomach because I'm thinking, why? Look, it might be arrogant experience. It might be the fact that I've been doing this for 36 years. I've been producing music for 36 years. I'm a fucking old fart. I started recording on a Tascam 4-track and then jumped almost directly to digital audio workstations. So I almost directly jumped into Cubase when it just had audio. It just started to have audio. It was extremely difficult to get anything recorded with very expensive audio cards from Teradek or whatever they were called. Anyway, it was always crashing. An export, you could export 10 times and lucky to get one export. There were clicks in it. It was bad. And all you could do is record audio and pan. Record, level, and pan. Zero plugins. VST didn't exist. It was just record audio. So I very early on learned just record a good signal, right? All you got to do is get a good sound, which I didn't back then. Oh my God, it did sound like shit. But when you look at my mixes, and I've done production sessions, and I will do more of them if you're interested, I do almost nothing to guitars. Actually, I don't mix. I call up a session that I already had. And when you look at my guitar chain, there's two things on there. There's the Vertigo VSC2 plugin, which you can get from Universal Audio on the UAD platform, but you can also get from Brainworks, which is now back with Dirk Ulrich. Vertigo VSC2. And I go to the preset power chords. And what it does is it slightly limits your guitar track. It's the most subtle form of compression, but it just elevates it a tiny little bit. And then a Mark EQ4, which again also on the UAD platform, but you can also get it from Brainworks. I recommend that Mark EQ4. It's a brilliant EQ for vocals. I use it on other vocals. For snare, I use it on the snare, and on the guitars. It's one of, honestly, two EQs I use. I use the graphic EQ in the API, Vision Channel Strip, and I use that. This is it. Everything you hear when I produce shit, which people have said, that sounds damn good, is simple. So this Mark EQ4 has 5 bands, plus the air band, and a sub band. Who needs that? And it's really just a knob. It's an EQ. It's not even semi-parametric or parametric. You can't change the Q. You can't even change the frequencies. The frequencies are laid out so that they work perfectly for vocals, guitars, and snares, in my opinion. And I add a high shelf with the air band at 5K on guitars. Wait, but don't you usually low pass the guitars? I fucking don't, because Crystal and Algae doesn't do it. So why would I? No, I actually boost a little bit at 5K. And then the 2.5K is nice if you want a little bit more bite, if you want a little bit more bottom and roundness and warmth, you go to the 160. And you can't do a lot in it. So I do a little bit of very, very subtle, I want a little bit more bite, whatever, but this massive surgical EQ on guitars that I see all the time and definitely see in that session, in the Logic session with the Daddario drummer, it doesn't get you anywhere. It makes the guitar sound like not guitars. And then you're actually trying to EQ the shit out of stuff that didn't go in right. It went in as DI and went through the Logic pedal board and amp. My opinion is shit in, shit out. I record a rhythm guitar, left and right. That's supposed to be it. In the very, very, very rarest of circumstances, when I go 7-string and go lower and more brutal, I might do 4. 2 with one sound, 2 with another sound, where potentially I'm not playing the full power chords, but I'm only playing the root notes for clarity. Maybe. But in general, it's pretty simple. One left, one right, hard pad. Crystal Algae style, he knows what he's doing. Then I think like an orchestra. It's all in the arrangement, people. Now, what the guy did here is one guitar part, meaning this modern I jump back and forth, which is impressive to look at, but when you listen to it, who gives a shit how it was recorded? So I think like an orchestra. I have a guitar doing the gong, 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 gong. That's one sound, that's one track, that's one performance. Then I might actually do the fifth of that, which might be what, so one thing is the basses, or the cellos actually. Then you have the bass doubling that. That's the basses. My guitar is the cello. Then the violas might be playing the fifth. So I'm actually doubling the fifth on separate tracks if I wanted that. But then I'm thinking of, okay, we have a pad here. So I'm doing a clean sound with a bit of delay, and I'm actually outlining the chords, so that information is there. And I treat the guitar parts like an arranger, because that's what I fucking studied. So I think the lesson here should be learn arranging, learn production, don't go too far. As I said, if you look at my tracks, there's usually maybe 6 guitar tracks, could be 8. Oh wait, but you said he did 8 and that's, no. 2 having one function, just left and right. There's another 2 with the cleans having one function. There's another one maybe with the fuzz doing the fifth or whatever, having another function. And then we're getting to maybe a high ostinato, if at all. But at that point, I'm going to stay away from synthesizers because I already have 4 functions in the song. When you look at what he did, there were also synthesizers in it, which added to the synthy nature. Learning the craft means you need less. Learning arranging means you need less. Going in with good sounds instead of this is the biggest fallacy. I'm sorry. But this whole DI bullshit is really bugging me. You record DI guitars and then you figure out the songs in the mix. I record with effects baked in. Yes. I don't add delay in the mix. That's on my track. I commit to everything I record. Why? Because I'm a fucking old fart. I'm old. It's what I do. It's how I learned it. But it also teaches you to pick the right sounds right then and there. If you have the chance on 10 tracks, as he did, to change the guitar sounds, you're going to get into the weeds and you're going to go, oh, now this, and let's put a different IR on here, and let's do this, and we're going to make it fatter, and then we're going to have phase issues, and then it's going to sound like shit, and then you're going to export it, and it's not what you wanted, then you're going to put it in a Suno, and then you cause a lot of trouble for Daddario. Then Daddario, to protect you, has to lie, and then they double down and say it was Lander, and oh my God, and now everyone hates Daddario. Just learn the skills. Commit to recording the guitars with an amp, with there's a head rush, with an anagram, with whatever, right away. And if you're using software, that's fine. I put it on the input. in Cubase or Logic. And anything that goes through it gets recorded on the track, baked in. That's how I use Genome, that's how I use any software. I don't put the software on the individual tracks where I recorded DIs. Yeah, but then you can't change anything later. That's exactly the fucking point. You'll never learn how to commit to the sounds and make the sounds good if later you're fiddling around with mic positions or IRs or EQs. Learn the craft, production, arranging, sound setting, playing the parts, and then your shit won't sound like AI, or you won't have to send it through AI to make it sound better, which I think is what happened here. Who can be blamed for this? It was an unfortunate chain of events that I think Daddario should have owned up to right away, apologized right away. They kept the lie going too far, too long. Will I stop working with them? Look, I'm gonna have a discussion. Will they want to work with me again after this video? Likely not. That's okay. Someone's calling me. Okay, that's it. Animals at the end.